Hey, what's up, guys? This isn't so much a transfer window roundup video as it is sort of a report on a new project and a new philosophy towards player signing. So I think the question that we all have in Football Manager is like, how do you figure out what players to sign, right? First time you play, you're like, oh, look, the scout gave this guy an A or an A+, I better sign him. But, oh, whoops, I signed too many left backs or whatever, and there's all sorts of problems. We're not doing that here, not this time around. We're doing something different. So first thing I'll show you here, we have numbers turned on, right? This is a different skin than the one that I've used in the past if you've watched past videos on the channel. And there are two numbers that I'm tracking for everybody. It's acceleration and pace. So if you haven't seen it already, I did talk about this earlier. The two attributes that are most important for all outfield players are acceleration and pace. It doesn't matter what position they play. It has been shown, it has been proven through experimentation that Football Manager for years, if not for the entire history of the franchise, that in Football Manager with the way that the match engine works, acceleration and pace are the most important things. And so when it comes to signing players, I have been focusing on trying to get acceleration and pace as high as possible. Now, it looks good, it looks high, but it's not perfect, right? We have all sorts of problems. You can see that we have problems down here. If you watch this morning's match, you saw Mirko Montemurro. This guy, if nothing else, is proof that acceleration and pace can help cover up a bunch of other problems. This is not a good player, right? This guy doesn't belong on this team. He has an acceleration and pace of 13, which is okay, but not great. And yet he's been able to play, I guess, mediocre in his matches for us, right? We tied against Olympiacos. He got a 6.2. We played him a long time ago against Union Berlin, which is a match I think we also drew, and he got a 6.3 in that match, which is kind of surprising for somebody who, when you look again at his stats, looks like he belongs in, like, the under 19s, except he's already 19, so it's kind of a problem, right? That kind of shows you what acceleration and pace is like and what it does for your team. He's only on the first team, by the way, because we don't really have a lot of fast center backs. That's one of the positions that we're weakest in. In fact, I'll show you over here. We'll go over here and look at this document. This is an example of, this is the document that I use. This is what I use to track the players that we have. Ignore the goalkeepers for now. We're going to look at everybody else, right? So what I've written here is the acceleration and pace numbers for not the best, but the worst player that we have at each position. You can see I try to have 3 players each position. We have 2 center backs, so there are 6 listed. We have 2 defensive midfielders. I actually have 7 listed because Elvis Rekbekaj, and I'm sorry I can't say anyone's name, he is a squad leader, right? So we're not going to just get rid of him that quickly, but we're probably not going to play him much. We have 4 players listed for the right winger. Andre Hahn is another squad leader who's really not quite good enough, but we have him listed anyway because we kind of have to. But Devontae Campbell is going to end up playing a lot more than him. And so there you have it. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. We actually have 7 strikers listed. That's because River Reese, who played in this morning's match, is on there because Josiah Furaha is injured. Reese actually should be in the under 19s. But you can see here when you look at this at these numbers, like you got what, 16 for our left backs and 15 for the right backs. That means these players have an acceleration and a pace rating of 16 or higher, or for right backs 15 or higher. And for just about all these positions, it's pretty high, right? For the left wing, I mean, 18-16 is pretty high when you consider 20-20 is the maximum. Right wing, 14-15 is the lowest. I think that's Hahn. I think Campbell is actually 15-15. I have to go back and check on that. And then for strikers, we only have 15-15 and above. Again, the places where we're weakest, the places where we could use more speed are defensive midfield and center back, where we, in both places, we have players who are just a little bit slower than I like, and it's kind of a frustrating thing. But that's the philosophy by which we're building this team. And so when I get new players in on a scouting report, this is the first place that I'll look. I'll look here to this list that I've made and say, okay, well, how do they look compared to the other guys who I already have on the squad? We're not going to assign somebody if they are slower than the players that we already have for obvious reasons, with only one exception, and that would be for a player who's like under 18, who I think I can train to become faster, because acceleration and pace are things that improve in Football Manager with the right kind of training. Go back to Evidence-Based Football Manager's videos. Go check out Max's videos and watch carefully as he explains things. And you too will notice that there are certain trainings that will help increase acceleration and pace. So there is a way to get younger players to do a little bit better. Older players, however, are probably not going to see that increase. In fact, it will probably decrease, which is why you want to get rid of them. So let's take a closer look here, and I'll show you sort of the way in which I have done this. So we'll go over here to scouting, and we'll take a look at the scout priorities. We have a whole bunch of players that are being scouted, right? Like 500 something, which is normal for a save for me. I don't know if it's normal for you or not. I love just having the scouts go look at players individually. I did the cheating thing, right? I go over to players and players in range, and then we do a search and we say, okay, this is looking for goalkeepers, but we want to look for players with certain attributes. Show me what you got, and then we're going to go scout them, right? That's the way that we do this. When we look at our scouting priorities, you'll see we have all these players sort of listed up here. I haven't received scouting reports yet, but we will soon. We'll look at the first one here. Christian Taseski. Again, I don't speak Macedonian. I'm probably the wrong one to ask. So we'll look first when the report comes in and we see, okay, what position does he play? Well, he plays left back, and he's got 15 acceleration and 15 pace. All right, well, I don't know. I don't have the document memorized, so we go back and we look at this and we say, okay, left back. Oh, look, the worst that we have of the 3 left backs on the first team is a 16-16, which tells me that this guy, Taseski, is unfortunately not good enough. Right there, we're not going to look at him any further because he's only 15-15. I know he's only 18 years old, but the other guys that we have are also young, right? Which means that chances are that they are going to improve faster than he is, right? Chances are better that we're going to have success with the players we already have than we will going after this guy. I know he doesn't cost much money, right? You could go after him anyway, right? I know there are other attributes that are important and that it matters for the current ability and stuff like that. But what I'm telling you is that when you test this out, when people have looked at this over thousands and thousands and thousands of matches, it's acceleration and pace that's more important. In fact, as we'll see in a later video, players with high acceleration and pace and low everything else do better than players who are even with everything. That's the way that it is, right? This is just the way that it works. Now, the other thing, I'm still like this. It's probably a little bit irrational, but I look at this and see that he's injury prone. I'm not going to sign him because he's injury prone anyway, even if he's really fast, right? So that's the kind of approach that I've been taking here. Now, I made a mistake early on, and it was a mistake that comes out of my heart, right? If we go over here to transfers and our transfer history, the first move that I made coming on, so there are all these moves that happen beforehand, and these are guys we can't get rid of. We can't get rid of Rekebaj, who came in for 1.7 million. What a bad signing. This guy is, how old is this guy? Oh, he's 24. I guess not a horrible signing, but he's slow. That's the problem. He's slow. 13-14 is slow, right? We need to get rid of that guy. Demirovic is okay. Mbuku is okay, though he was injured for a while. Maximilian Bauer, do we even still have him? He's on the B team, right? Why? Because he's slow. 12 and 13, and what's his age? He's 22, so he might get a little bit faster, but he's slow. He's slower than the rest of our center backs. He's slower than that one, the Italian that I showed you. He's a better player than the Italian overall, but he's going to be slow. He's going to be beaten the back all the time, and so, I mean, we've moved on. We're going to go get somebody else. Now, the mistake I made wasn't those. That was all before I came on. This was the mistake I made. My favorite player, Sufanat Mwanta, who we went out to Thailand to get, has a 13-13, and that's where the mistake was. If I had thought about this carefully beforehand and looked carefully, I would have known that he wasn't going to be fast enough. Go back and watch the videos that I've already put up and see the matches in which he plays. He only has 3 goals. They all came in one match, and the problem is that he hasn't been fast enough. He can't get himself open because he's too slow, and so as a result, we've loaned him out. And once he comes back next season, we're probably going to sell him on. right? We won't get a whole bunch of money because we got to go pay Buriram United a whole bunch of money for the pleasure of purchasing him. But we're going to need to move him on because he's just not fast enough. He's not quite good enough for the team. That's the mistake that I've made. Now, there's a whole bunch of other players that I've bought going along, you know, as time went on, who I thought were fast enough and who were faster than players that we had before. But then we turned around and got somebody a little bit better on the back end. I mean, we brought in, like 90-something players, and so we've let out a whole bunch of players, including a whole ton of guys on loan, right? We'll see what happens. Maybe they'll develop well, maybe they won't. It doesn't really matter to me whether they develop well or not. What we're looking for is whether these players, when they come back, are going to be fast enough. And if they're not fast enough, then we just keep them out on loan until they hit like age 23 or so, and then we try to force them out. We try to sell them and hope we make a profit in the end, right? That's the whole idea behind it. In terms of finances, we still actually have a little bit of money left in the transfer budget. We have quite a bit of room in the wage budget as well. My goal moving forward is to try to do something again to figure out the situation with the center backs. It's not looking great, right? We'll go back and look at what we have in the back. One of the reasons why we keep giving up goals is because the center backs that we have to choose from are not really that spectacular. You can see we don't have really hardly anybody who's hitting like 15 on either of these ratings. Pace is actually more important than acceleration. We're not seeing any 15s in pace with these guys. We do have Kandiak Manga, who the game loves giving poor ratings to. And technically, I mean, he's a natural at center back. We could have him play back there a little bit more frequently. But his form has been, like I said, pretty bad. It doesn't like giving him good ratings, whether we win or lose. So, I mean, there you have it. The game does weird things with center backs anyway. That's been one of our big problems. The other problem has been a defensive midfield. Where we're a little bit faster. You know, we have Chahid, we have Sensi, who started this morning, right? So, I mean, these guys are okay, but we could use a little bit more. We could use something that's a little bit faster and somebody who's a little bit more established. And so that's kind of what we're hoping for in the future, right? Now, I do have some faith that these guys, look at the ages, 18, 17, 19. Well, this one's 24, but we're going to move on from him, like I said, 18, 18, 17. I do have some faith that these guys are going to get better over time. But, you know, it's going to take a little bit of time, and that's just sort of the way that it is. Now, the big question, of course, is not what's the philosophy, but rather how are we doing, right? So let's go take a quick look over here and see. We look at our competitions. I mean, we have really, really thick competition. You look at this, we have to play Bayern. We lost to Leipzig. I think we drew with them. We did play at Napoli, right? And some of these others we haven't quite played yet. We did beat Freiburg, which was good, but then we drew with Olympiacos, which was pretty bad. So we're in 14th place out of these 24 teams. Now, the whole Premier League is actually 96 teams. We're hoping really for kind of like a mid-level finish. That's why the performance is listed there as 55%. In the Conference League, they want us to reach the round of 32. We need a better performance than we've had so far, so we'll sort of see what happens. So, I mean, it's been okay. We've done all right. We haven't been completely embarrassed. That's what the key is, right? Now, I'll show you here the sort of player that we're really looking to go after. The player that sort of exemplifies this strategy is this guy, Alejandro Garnacho, who we bought on installment, of course, from From United, I think it was. Let's take a look here and see if I remember wrong. Yeah, we did. We got him from Manchester United, and they made a huge profit off of him, didn't they? He's got 19 acceleration and 19 pace. Now, not everything else is up there yet, right? The guy's, 18 years old, right? He's injured at the moment with another sprained ankle. This is the second one that he's had, which drives me nuts. Though I may have put him into this match against Freiburg a little bit faster than I should have. And come back here. But this acceleration and pace rating is what has me really excited, right? If this guy's healthy, if he's all the way healthy, and if he's ready to play, he should be easily one of the best players in the league, right? And with barring him, and we saw this guy score this morning, Noah Okafor, who's got 18-16, right? Which is good, and he's 22 years old, maybe a little bit older, but he's also the sort of player who you would expect to do pretty well in the near future and to be able to continue to make some progress, right? If all else fails, if we end up getting players faster than him or with better pace than him, then we go ahead and sell him on. We got him for $38.5 million. Sort of a rare signing for me, signing a guy who was who was 22 years old, or I guess 21, I think, at the time that we got him. That's not necessarily part of my philosophy. I like getting players who are younger, but that's just sort of the way that it worked out. And so basically, that's the way that this works, and that's the way that we're doing our scouting. When I look at the scouting reports when they come on, again, I'm going to ignore the C- recommendation. I'm looking only at acceleration, pace, and what position do you play. And then we take a look over here and say, oh, well, this one looks like he might be okay. He's 18 years old. Depending on how much we can get him for, this might be a good guy to pick up if it's cheap enough. And then we kind of stick him in the 18 years old. I put him in the B team and put him out on loan, and maybe he gets faster. And if he doesn't, then we stick with him for a little while. We paid like $100,000 for him, sell him off, get like $1 million or $2 million, hopefully, and then we're okay, right? That's the sort of idea. Now, if this guy, Vardanyan, if he had like a 14 here or a 14 there for acceleration or pace, we wouldn't even touch him because he can't even touch the squad, right? There's no way that we're going to ever use him, right? So you see, that's kind of the way that this works. That's sort of the philosophy. And using that philosophy, we've brought in 97 players, and we've had 91 players go out. And we're probably going to buy and sell some more in the next transfer window. So there you have it. That's kind of what the idea is. It's a little bit of attempt to min and max this. It hasn't worked spectacularly so far, but it's worked okay. We're hoping that in the near future it'll work just a little bit better, and we'll be able to start winning these matches that we're drawing currently, and maybe we'll be able to get some faster center backs in. So I'll talk with you again tomorrow. See you then. Bye.